call it a machine, we would call in every other instrument a machine too. We could call a piano a machine, because have you ever seen a piano on the side of the lever? It's a very complicated mechanism.
Okay, some solder on there. And now we should get some sound. Try the key. I can feel what's going on inside of a piece of electronic equipment. I have this sense that I know, and to some extent I have control over what's going on inside the transistors and inside the resistors. When I'm thinking about how to solve a particular problem, I can think about it for days and weeks and nothing will happen. And then, you know, someday when I'm cutting the grass or I'm having a hamburger or I wake up in the middle of the night, the idea will be there. I think it would be egotistical of me to say I thought of it. What happened is I opened my mind up and the idea came through me and into my head. These ideas, I don't have to dig up anything. Sometimes I don't even have to be thinking about them. And there they are. It's something between discovering and witnessing.
For me, sampling was a way of playing with systems of memory and being able to remember a record from 1972, take the bass line from that, splice it.
When I think of this circuit, I have a feeling for what's happening with the electricity as it goes through these parts. You know, I don't imagine resistors being stretched out on a row like this, because that has nothing to do with the sound. What it has to do with is all these little traces on the board here that connect them together and cause the current to change as it goes from one part to the other. So I have a feeling which is very similar to how I imagine a violin maker feels when he's just getting the right amount of wood in one surface of the violin. There are a lot of people who begin to feel what the circuits do in a way that's similar to the way I feel them. Now, I have technical training, so I visualize things more in terms of voltages and currents. But you can also visualize them in terms of how the sound is changing. And I know for a fact that musicians make contact with this board inside the instrument here. Not physical contact. You know, it's not like they have it under their armpits, but there's something going around here that connects what's going here with what's going inside here. It's not spiritual in the sense that it's religious, but it's spiritual in the sense that it uses some way of connecting what's in the things that are in the universe by ways other than directly with ours, that we can see with our senses. I've always liked gardening, even as a small child, and my father did too. He was an engineer. Gardening, of course, puts you in touch with nature. Growing things requires that you get in tune with nature. What all this has to do with inventing, I'm not quite sure. But somehow they all feel like the same thing to me. Both my wife and I have the view of our universe, of the environment we're in here, as a very complex ecosystem that has to be taken care of, just like a finely tuned machine. This is an organic garden here. We grow our own food. We know exactly what nutrients we put in the soil and what poisons we don't put in the soil. So we feel that we're controlling our own personal environment, our own personal ecology, We're both learning a lot about the nature of reality and the connections we have with realities that are at a different level than what we experience every day here in the material world. And I think that's changed the way I think about instruments too. The more you get into material, into matter, the more you realize that all there is in matter is energy. There's a blur between energy and consciousness. All material is conscious to some extent or another. All material can respond to some extent or another to the vibrations of energy that is different from the energy you learn about in physics. There's all sorts of reliable information now on people and animal being able to affect the operations of machines, even of computers. And I think that has great implications for what goes on between a musician and his instrument. There is a level of reality where there is no time and there is no space. There's just energy. And we have contact with that through the intermediate layers. So if the right channels, if the right connections are established, I don't see why a piece of matter, a piece of broken glass or an old record can't make contact through this very high level of reality that has access to everything, past and future.
It's not what you have when you're having more than one.
The synthesizer is nothing but a new step in the evolution of musical instruments.
Why do you feel at one with your musical instrument? Why do you feel that the instrument is an extension of your hands? There's something going on that's more than just the way the instrument feels the sounds. And we don't really know what that is, but we're beginning to learn.
There is the other reference point is that music that potentially would be there, the music that could grow out of sounds that the traditional instruments can't make, and that the traditional references aren't there.
Because it's very simple. It does so much, and it's such a sensitive musical instrument. Simplicity, elegance too, and that pleases my engineering aesthetic. That you can get a lot of functionality and a lot of sensitivity out of just a few parts. Music is becoming more and more something that producers do by themselves for listeners who listen by themselves. Whereas if you go back, say before electronics, music is always something that was done by musicians and listeners being together and interacting. I think that kind of interaction is the most important aspect of music culturally.